Every safe states map you have ever seen is wrong about at least a dozen of them. Yellowstone does not erupt like a Hollywood volcano. It does not send a wall of lava rolling toward Kansas. It sends an umbrella cloud 30 miles high that spreads ash in every direction at once, upwind included. And models out of the United States Geological Survey put 56 inches of it on Billings, Montana, and 9.5 inches on Salt Lake City. 56 inches. Not a scare number, a modeled number from a month-long eruption simulation. And that is just the middle of the map. The problem is not lava. The problem is a gray powder that clogs your lungs, chokes your engine, poisons your well, and collapses your roof the second it gets wet. Half the country wakes up under it, the other half wakes up in a country that does not work anymore. And here's the part the doom channels will not tell you. The ranking is not obvious. Some of the states everyone assumes are toast come out better than Nebraska. One state on this map, nobody guesses it, and it is the single best place your family could be when it goes. I'm holding it to the end on purpose. Every state ranked, dead to safe, all 50 of them, with the ash figures out of United States Geological Survey models and the priced fix list you can start building tonight for less than the cost of one weekend of groceries. Before we get back to it, you've seen where this country's been going, and if it ever gets ugly on your street, whatever happens at your door is going to be over long before help shows up. So I wrote it all down. The SHTF Home Defense Manual, 667 pages on protecting your home. Doors, locks, the plan, the law, and the week nobody's coming. The cheap fixes first before anybody sells you a bunker. $47, and the link's right below this video. All right, back to it. Not lava, not fear, not a bunker pitch. A map, a ranking, and the 12 cheap things that decide whether your household is one of the ones that walks out of it. Here is what the tactical channels will not tell you. There is one state on this map that most safe list videos never rank in the top 5, sometimes never mention at all. When you actually run the United States Geological Survey ashfall model against it, it comes out as the single least affected patch of ground in the contiguous United States, under a millimeter of ash. Prevailing westerlies against it, an ocean on the other side. I'm saving it for the end on purpose because if you understand why it wins, you understand why every other ranking on the internet is guessing. And the reason you have never heard it ranked right is that it does not sell bunkers. Half the folks making these videos are selling you a $400 go bag in a fatalist mood. Doom gets the click. Ready does not. A lot of good folks get talked into that. They buy the expensive bag and skip the cheap fix that actually keeps them alive. I am Rhett Callahan. I run projects at a custom rifle shop, so I spend my days on the bench thinking about tolerances and worst cases. I got serious about this the day I had 2 kids down the hall. I did not buy the bunker. I read the United States Geological Survey reports and ran the numbers. Ready, not scared. So here's where we are going. All 50 states rank from dead to safer in the order the ash actually hits. Blast zone first, then the meters of ash Rockies, then the centimeters of ash plains, then the millimeters of ash coasts, then the states that only feel the global shock. Every state gets its band. Every band gets the cheap fix. The mask, the plastic sheeting, the water barrel, the pantry, the radio, the filter. All with a price and a place to buy it. 12 priced items, all under $200 total. The question is not, will Yellowstone go? The question is what state your family wakes up in the morning, the ash starts falling, and whether you already own the $20 box that keeps it out of your lungs. Wyoming is not a ranking. Wyoming is the hole in the map. If the Yellowstone caldera goes at super eruption scale, the northwest corner of this state does not get ash. It gets erased. Pyroclastic density currents move at highway speed and hit hundreds of degrees. Grand Teton, Jackson Hole, the whole park, the tourist towns on the rim, gone in the first hour. Casper, 400 miles east, gets 20 inches of ash on the roof. Cheyenne gets less, but less still buries every road out. There is no drill for Wyoming. Wyoming is the drill for everyone else. The United States Geological Survey ran a month-long eruption simulation in 2014 and modeled the ashfall city by city. Casper catches about 20 inches of ash. The umbrella cloud spreads in every direction at once, including upwind of the wind. That is the blast layer of the doctrine. The states where no price fix reaches you because the fix has to arrive before the ash does, and here it does not. Huckleberry Ridge, the biggest of the 3 past eruptions, dropped ash from California to Minnesota to Texas. Wyoming was the plug. Wyoming is always the plug. The fix for Wyoming is a full tank of gas, a paper Wyoming atlas that still works when the global positioning system dies, and a plan to be somewhere else during a swarm. $20 in fuel, $12 for the atlas. That is the whole toolkit for ground zero. Do not be there. Wyoming is dead red, not survivable in place. And the state next door catches more ash on a rooftop than any place in America. That is next. Picture ash the color of old cigarette ash, but heavier. Glass fine, abrasive, and when a Montana thunderstorm rolls through and wets it down, every cubic foot suddenly weighs twice what dry ash does. Billings catches 56 mottled inches. 56! A house roof carries maybe 20 pounds per square foot on a good design. Wet volcanic ash at that depth stacks up past 100. So the roof over your kids' bunk beds gives at 3 in the morning, and it does not creak first. It just goes. That is the Montana failure. Not lava, not fire. Ceilings on top of the people under them. Billings, Montana, modeled at about 1,429 millimeters of ash. 56 inches. That is the single highest model figure in the contiguous 48 outside the caldera itself. This is the delay layer of the doctrine, the state where the ash still reaches you, but you have hours to 12 hours of warning to shed the load before the roof gives. Eastern Montana is red. Western Montana, behind the Rockies, less so. But nowhere in this state is green. The fix is a $40 snow rake from a hardware store, the extendable kind with a plastic head. As the ash falls, you rake it off in shifts before rain arrives. Add a $25 roll of 6mm plastic sheeting and a roll of Gorilla Tape to seal windows and attic vents. $65. Roof stays up. $65 beats a collapsed ceiling. Name a bunker pitch that does that. And Idaho's problem is different again. You do not die under it, you die trying to leave. Eastern Idaho gets its share of ash, but the killer here is not the depth. It is the highway. You throw the kids in the truck, you point it west, and about 40 miles out of Idaho Falls, the air filter chokes on volcanic glass. The engine sucks harder, and it dies on a shoulder in a gray blizzard with nothing running behind you and nothing running ahead. No cell signal, no auto club, no help for a week, because federal disaster response to a continent-scale event runs 72 hours to a week before it even organizes, and it is not coming to a shoulder. Volcanic ash is essentially powdered glass. It is what kills jet engines and passenger car engines the same way, by shredding filters and scoring cylinders. Every airliner grounded in an ashfall event is grounded for this exact reason. Idaho's issue is a mobility layer of the doctrine, the state where you can survive if you stay and you die if you run without the right gear in the truck. $12 gets you a spare engine air filter for your specific vehicle at any auto parts store. Buy 2. Keep them in the truck wrapped in a shop rag. Add a $30 5-gallon jerry can, filled, rotated every 6 months, and a paper road atlas. Total kit under $70. That is the difference between a driveway and a shoulder. Filters, fuel, paper map, $70. And Utah's problem is what falls into your eyes before you can even reach the truck. That is next. Salt Lake City is modeled at 9 3/4 inches of ash, not 56 like Billings, but 9 inches of powdered glass falling out of the sky over a week is a different problem. It is an air problem. It is a light problem. It is an eyes problem. Ash particles are jagged. They scratch corneas the way sand does, but sharper. Rub your eyes once and you have cut them. Walk to the mailbox without protection and you are squinting through blood by the time you are back inside. About 248 millimeters modeled for Salt Salt Lake, plus significant coverage across northern and eastern Utah from prior ash beds. The Huckleberry Ridge deposit reached all the way south into Arizona and New Mexico. This is the endurance layer of the doctrine. Utah survives the eruption. Utah does not survive it comfortably. Every trip outside is a hazmat trip for weeks. $8 at Walmart gets you a pair of swim goggles. Not tactical, not fancy. The rubber ones your kid wears in the pool, sealed against the eye socket. Add a $15 box of N95 masks per adult in the house, a pack per kid. Total under $30 for a family of 4. Every trip out the door, goggles on, mask up, no exceptions. $30 and your eyes still work. And Colorado's problem is what falls into the one thing you cannot live 3 days without. That is next. You turn the tap in Denver and it comes out the color of dishwater because the reservoirs upstream in the Rockies just caught 2 to 8 inches of ash and the treatment plants were not built for volcanic glass. If you are on a well east of the Front Range, worse. Surface ash percolates down and your well is unusable for months, maybe permanently, and you go through more water than you think. 3/4 of a gallon per person per day just to drink. More if it is summer. 3 days without and the kids start shutting down. Past Yellowstone ash beds fully covered Colorado. The Lava Creek deposit, about 640,000 years old, buried the state to some degree. Modern models put centimeters to decimeters on the eastern plains. This is the resource layer of the doctrine. Colorado's issue is not the sky. It is what the sky does to the groundwater downstream of the peaks for months after the eruption stops. $75 at a farm supply store buys a food-grade 55-gallon water storage barrel. That is 110 person days of drinking water for a family of 4. Fill it from the tap now, add a splash of unscented bleach, an 1/8 teaspoon per gallon, cap it, park it in the basement. Rotate once a year. Cost per day of survival water is about 70 cents. Name the smart home gadget that beats that. $75, 110 days of water. And the Dakota's problem is one nobody thinks about until the 8th day. That is next. Rapid City is modeled at 8 1/4 inches of ash. That is enough to shut down every road in the state for a month. And here is what nobody plans for. The psychological wall at day 8. First 3 days you are running on adrenaline. Day 4 through 7 you are running on routine. Day 8, the family looks at each other across the same 4 walls. The ash is still falling, the radio is not saying it will stop, and the fights start. In the Dakotas, the enemy is the calendar. 208 millimeters modeled for Rapid City, and the northern plains sit under the umbrella cloud densest deposition band because of the prevailing wind. This is the duration layer of the doctrine. The states where the ash does not just fall, it keeps falling long enough that your household endurance becomes the failure point, not your supplies. Cheapest fix on this whole list. A deck of cards, a printed book of crossword puzzles, and a stack of paperbacks from the library sale for $1 each. Total under $15. Sounds like a joke, it is not. Every emergency management after action from a long duration disaster names the same problem. Idle families crack. Give the kids something for their hands and their heads that does not need power. You are still with me? Most folks clicked off the second I mentioned Yellowstone. That already puts you ahead of your whole street. And Nebraska is where breathing itself becomes the priced fix. The Great Plains sit dead center under the ash plume. Nebraska, Kansas, western Iowa, every past Yellowstone eruption buried these states completely. And the failure here is not roofs or roads, it is lungs. Volcanic ash particles are small enough to lodge deep in the alveoli and sharp enough to lacerate on the way in. Kids with asthma, their inhalers do not touch it. Elderly parents with COPD, same. Silicosis-style damage from prolonged exposure is not theoretical. It is documented from every historical ashfall event. In Kansas, breathing costs money. The Lava Creek ash bed covered Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and parts of Texas in full. Modern models put centimeters of ash across the region, sustained over weeks. This is the health layer of the doctrine. The states where the ash is not going to kill you today, but a household without respiratory protection is going to lose somebody within the first month. $15 at any hardware store or pharmacy buys a 10-pack of NIOSH-rated N95 respirators. Not the cheap paper kind, the actual N95 molded 2-strap. 1 per person per day of outdoor exposure, minimum. Buy 4 10-packs, $60. That is 40 person days of cleanish air for a family of 4. Cost per breath, roughly 0. Cost per not losing grandma, unlimited. $60 for lungs that still work. And Iowa's problem stretches further than any single family storeroom. That is next. Iowa is where America grows the corn that feeds America's cattle that feeds the grocery store. Bury Iowa under 2 to 4 inches of volcanic ash, and next year's harvest does not happen. Not delayed, did not happen. Livestock inhaling ash from grazing fields die by the herd. Soil chemistry shifts for years, so the failure in Iowa is not your family. You probably survive Iowa fine. The failure is that a year later there is no beef, no pork, no corn syrup, and no processed food in any grocery store in any state. Minneapolis modeled at centimeters of ash. Iowa, Missouri, Illinois all catch measurable deposition. This is the supply layer of the doctrine. The states whose failure kills nobody in that state but starves half the country. And that is why the pantry item is the single highest leverage fix on this whole list. $200 at any grocery store builds a 3-month non-perishable pantry for a family of 4. Rice, beans, canned tomatoes, canned tuna, peanut butter, oats, powdered milk, salt, sugar, cooking oil, multivitamins. Rotate through it normally so nothing expires. Cost per family day of eating is about $1.65. Cost per not watching your kids lose weight when the shelves empty out in month 2 is unquantifiable. $200, 1 Saturday, 1 hall closet. And Missouri's problem is what happens when the ash meets the one thing everyone forgets to filter. Next, by the time the ash reaches Missouri and Arkansas, we are talking millimeters to a couple of centimeters, survivable amounts. But every stream, every creek, every rain barrel in the state catches it. And the household that stored 55 gallons of water in the basement is doing fine for a week. The household that did not, they are looking at the tap and wondering if boiling ash water makes it safe to drink. It does not. Boiling kills bacteria. It does not remove volcanic glass. The Lava Creek ash bed reached Arkansas and Louisiana. Modern models put thin but real ash across the entire lower Mississippi drainage. This is the filtration layer of the doctrine. The states where the ash does not kill you, but the water it lands in will if you do not have a way to strain the glass out. $3 at the grocery store buys 100 paper coffee filters. Layer 3 of them in a funnel. Pour water through. It catches the visible ash particles. Follow that with a $50 Sawyer Squeeze or Berkey-style gravity filter, the kind that pulls submicron particles. Total under $60. Filter first, boil second. Reverse that order and you are drinking ground glass. Not a hypothetical. That is how volcanic ash physically works. And Ohio's problem is invisible. You never see the ash and you starve anyway. You are in Knoxville, Cincinnati, Louisville, Nashville. The ash is a millimeter, a dusting. Your roof is fine. Your engine is fine. Your family is fine. And then the trucks stop coming because the interstate system pivots on the plains, Interstate 70, Interstate 80, Interstate 40, and those routes are buried in ash for weeks. Grocery stores run 3 days of stock tops. By day 4, the shelves are empty. By day 10, there are lines. By day 20, in every county, there is a problem the sheriff cannot solve. You survive Ohio's ash. You barely survive Ohio's supply chain. United States Geological Survey models put millimeters, fractions of an inch, across the interior east. This is the information layer of the doctrine. The states where the immediate physical threat is small and the winning move is knowing what is coming, when, and adjusting before the shelves empty. $30 at a hardware store buys a hand-cranked National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration weather radio with a battery backup and universal serial bus charging. Not a scanner, not a ham rig, the basic emergency band radio. United States Geological Survey ashfall advisories, National Weather Service warnings, evacuation orders, resupply notices. When the cell towers fail and the power is flaky, this is your one line into what is happening. $30. Every home should have one anyway, Yellowstone or not. And the coasts get a version of the ash the maps do not show, and it grounds the country. New York City catches about 2.5 millimeters of mottled ash. Los Angeles, 5.2 millimeters. Washington, District of Columbia, about 2.9. Fractions of an inch. That is a hazy afternoon, not a disaster. But here's what those numbers do not show. 5 millimeters of volcanic ash in the atmosphere grounds every commercial flight, coast to coast, for weeks. No planes, no cross-country freight, no emergency air support to the interior states that need it. And the coasts are where the food imports come in. The ports keep running, but the trucks that move imported food inland do not. Coastal, not immune. The umbrella cloud spreads in every direction. That is why Los Angeles gets more ash than New York despite prevailing westerlies working against it. This is the systemic layer of the doctrine. The states where you personally are okay and the country you live in is not. And both of those are true at the same time. Coastal fix is the whole list stacked. Mask, goggles, water, pantry, radio, filters. Total under $200 if you buy it right. On the coast, you have time the interior does not. Days of warning before the ash reaches you. Use that window. Anyone within 1,000 miles of Yellowstone has hours. You have days. Do not waste them assuming the coast means safe. $200 beats a $2,000 go bag every time. And now the state I have been holding since the start. The one place on this map that comes out cleanest. Here. All right. The state I have been holding since sentence 1. Not Idaho. Idaho is red. Not Oregon. Oregon catches the westward umbrella. Not Alaska. Not Hawaii. Those are not on the contiguous map. It is Maine. Maine. And once I lay out the geometry, you will see why every ranking that puts it in the middle of the pack is running on gut instead of numbers. Here is the geometry. Prevailing winds across North America move west to east, so the ash gets pushed away from Maine. The umbrella cloud spreads upwind too, sure, but by the time it wraps back across 2,000 miles of atmosphere to hit the Atlantic coast, the deposition is measured in fractions of a millimeter, less than New York City, less than Boston, modeled at under a millimeter across most of the state, and on Maine's east side, the ocean. There is no ash coming from the ocean. So what does Maine actually deal with? The global shock. Grocery shelves empty, freight grounded, agriculture collapsed in the middle of the country, same as every other coastal state. But direct ashfall, the thing that collapses roofs and chokes engines and destroys wells and cuts eyes and burns lungs, is functionally zero. That is why Maine wins. Not because it is remote, not because it is rural, because the physics of the umbrella cloud and the prevailing westerlies stack in its favor, and the pantry plus radio plus water barrel kit that costs $300 total. In Maine, that is enough. In Wyoming, no amount of gear is. Maine, under a millimeter. Ocean on one side, a continent absorbing the ash on the other. The single least affected patch of ground in the contiguous 48, and nobody puts it on the list. Name another state where a $300 Saturday makes your household functionally fine. There is not one. I will be straight with you. The United States Geological Survey says a Yellowstone supereruption is unlikely in any of our lifetimes. Small hydrothermal events, maybe. A full caldera event, low probability. So am I telling you to move to Maine tomorrow? No. What I am telling you is that the whole price list I just walked you through costs less than $300, and it works for a tornado, an ice storm, a hurricane, a grid down week, or Yellowstone. What did it cost you? A Saturday and a screwdriver. So here's what you do before Sunday night. 3 things under one weekend. Drive to the grocery store and build the $200 pantry. Rice, beans, canned, oats, oil. Drive to the hardware store and get the N95 masks, the plastic sheeting, the roll of tape, the weather radio. Drive to the farm supply and get the 55-gallon water barrel and fill it. 3 stores, 1 weekend, under $300 total. That is it. You just moved your household from one of the ones that panics when the map lights up red to one of the ones that already knows what to do. Not because you got scared, because you got ready. Ready beats scared every single time. Drop a comment. Which band is your state in? And which one of these 12 fixes are you buying this weekend? And tell me the state you think I ranked wrong. There is always one, and I want to hear the case for it. I read every one. Do me one thing. Send this to the one person in your family who lives closest to Yellowstone before they need it. Not for me, for them. 10 seconds. It might be the difference. Next, we go deeper. The full grid-down bug-in plan, the water storage math nobody teaches, and the one caliber question every household argues about when the trucks stop running. Follow along so it lands in front of you before you need it, not after. Shoot straight, and I will see you at the counter.